Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the State of Events. My name is Sonia Alcazar-Collier, owner and operator of Cinch Events and Productions. This has been a three-part series event by collaborators in the event space who felt urged to respond to the health crisis. Our hope is that through these uncertain times, you have found solace in the company of your communities, and that on the other side of this disaster, you can be encouraged in how to move forward with rebuilding. The topic we've been addressing in this series is best practices in rescheduling and restructuring your event. We deeply understand all of the adjustments those in our industry have faced. And in our final episode tonight, we will focus on the best practices in regards to marketing and continued communication. Today's panelist is my fellow mommypreneur and business owner, Ms. Vanessa Oliver. Hello, friend.
Hey, Sonia, how are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I feel like any topic of conversation these days is an interesting discussion to have.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining. I know that you have a busy household with your children and just holding it down on the mommypreneur front. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And actually, can you tell some of our listeners a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, so Infinitely Elevated, I'm an event producer for Infinitely Elevated, and it is the cannabis arm to our social and corporate event production company, Infinite Dreams. At Infinitely Elevated, we focus on introducing interactive education for the novice and experienced cannabis consumer by curating interactive experiences supported by innovations in technology, design, entertainment, and culinary arts.
Wow, you run the gamut there.
Yes, girl.
Busy. Mm-hmm. So Vanessa, in talking about the best practices regarding marketing and continued communication, how best during this season can we communicate with our clients and keep the conversation engaged with vendors during this time of crisis?
So first and foremost, we want to think about our audience and the information they are looking to obtain about your current or pending event. Many of us in the industry have had to postpone an event or convert it into a virtual format. So It's important to articulate how you will handle any changes that arise. For instance, this past weekend, we were set to launch the premiere of our Southern-inspired infused dining experience, Soulfully Elevated, and naturally we had to postpone, in which case our first directive was to reach out to all of our vendors and sponsors, followed by our ticket holders, and then ultimately release a public announcement. For our ticket holders, we opened the conversation by offering them a full refund, but also let them know that if they're interested in letting us retain their ticket and transfer it to the new event date, we would offer them 50% off an additional guest ticket when the time came.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and what's great is that they all seem to really appreciate that. So I'm happy to say that all of them decide to retain their tickets for the next event. Fingers crossed, we will hopefully have that soon. But that's just an example for refunds and cancellations. There are certainly other things you may need to communicate with your audience, such as a preparedness plan, especially if you intend to move forward with your event in any way. When it comes to a preparedness plan, it's very important to be transparent, especially if you don't have one. You can simply let your audience know you're working on it.
Right.
Furthermore, if a part of your plan is to mention how you are staying within CDC compliance, make sure the information you provide is symptomatic. You don't have to put yourself in the position of being a health advisor. The World Health Organization and CDC are great resources to redirect any public advisory inquiries. Yeah, and then going back to the terms of communication, we as planners understand that our audience can be versatile in how they receive information. So we want to take advantage of all of our primary channels, whether it's social media, email, company websites, etc. These are all appropriate forms of reaching out to your audience. Finally, when releasing content, we want to make sure that, number one, it's aligned with the contents others in your organization are releasing in regards to your event.
Oh, wow, that makes sense.
And then two, we are mindful about the representation within that content. For instance, if you're posting photos or videos, try to stay away from depictions of large crowds, open foods, or anything else that might strike a chord with the current state of our health concerns.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's sort of, people are probably thinking too, like, if you are invited to a 10 or less attendee event, you're probably thinking too, like, do I even want to go to that? And in one of our in our previous episode, we were actually talking about, you know, different ways to still have events, and whether or not for them to be virtual or to keep them, you know, on the books just for another time when we're actually able to meet in person. And I can imagine that, you know, some people who still want to, you know, attend their daughter's wedding, you know, down the street or in the next city or state, all of these are going to come up. You know, in ways, there are ways that we can, as business professionals and as small business owners, there are ways that we can strengthen our brand during the time, during, you know, times of crisis. In some of your practices, what are some of the ways that you can actually strengthen your brand during a time when we all have to really be locked and shut in? What are some of the things that I can do?
You know, that's a great question. It really comes back down to not only understanding your audience, but also understanding and engaging the climate around your audience. It's essential that we stay engaged with the community concerns by keeping up to date with advisories from health officials, inquiries from attendees, and trends from colleagues and industry professionals. Of course, the CDC is one of the strongest sources for health updates, but I also like PCMA, which is the Professional Convention Management Association. They've been doing a great job staying on top of the industry movement as it applies to the CDC changes. So all, you know, sort of localized concerns that we have for each of our events, I feel like they've done a great job on helping us to articulate what to expect to our to our audience.
Okay.
I also encourage listeners to tune in to a good friend of mine. His name is Kip Baldwin of the Soul documentary on YouTube. His team has also done a great job on staying not only on top of the current trends, but staying ahead of you know, what the expectations are throughout this pandemic, and advising on ways we can all be moving forward in every industry, you know, and even in regards to our personal lives. But going back to evolving our brand, another key component is collaboration. Now, with all this downtime that we have right now, it's the perfect time to reach out to other industry professionals, get a feel for what they have going on, provide yourself as a resource, or even offer other resourceful opportunities to them by being a support for B2B opportunities, and helping to network and engage them with other people or other industry professionals that you feel have been a resourceful tool to yourself. No one can say for sure when life as we know it will get back to normal, but when it does, we want to be ready to step back into the fold with fresh new ideas. In addition, collaborations can be very impactful for our current state. For instance, we were approached to target a solution for wedding couples. As you mentioned, there are people who are dealing with events at this very moment that, especially in the wedding arena, where they're not exactly sure what direction to take right now. And our job as event planners is to offer solutions that they can either use now or later. We are working on solutions for now in our current state. So we are working with a tech team to bring virtual engagement through streaming for couples and their guests who are we're expecting to get married within the next couple of months.
Oh, wow.
By doing this, we are capturing much of the traditional content of weddings, such as the ceremony, the first dance, preparations, and virtual guest interactions. On the production side, we are working on collaborations with other companies to offer additional features in forms that will impact moments for them, and will create new special circumstances and occasions that they can enjoy in lieu of the fact that they can't have their traditional wedding experience anymore. So just really bringing all together in a virtual setting, as you mentioned, you guys discussed on your previous podcast, bringing together in a virtual setting the same components, and then just trying to make them a lot more special so that they don't feel like they've lost out on a whole lot.
Wow. So it's almost like a reality show type of, like, here's the camera going on while we're getting married.
Yeah, I guess you can think about it like that, and that's actually a fun way to think about it. I mean, I would have loved an opportunity like that, even though, you know, this pandemic wasn't going on during my wedding. But if I think about it, if I knew there was a virtual option, I totally would have went for that.
Right. Especially for those, I feel like clients that, you know, have this this unique, you know, dilemma of having, like, I can't have as many people as I want there. So maybe there's this, community that's tuning in virtually, while it's like the local folks have been able to, I really think we're going to see a shift after this
Yes,
season of being closed in. And I really believe that some innovation from productions and events is really going to come in a way that we've
absolutely.
never seen before.
Yeah,
And
in a very
it was birthed
simplistic
out of
way.
crisis, right?
Absolutely, and in a very simplistic way too. If you think about it, we've kind of we went from reading a map to moving into MapQuest, and now we're going back to reading the map.
Right.
And
Yeah. Come on, Thomas Guide.
exactly, and they say that the bored mind is the most creative mind. And I think right now, a lot of us are bored out of our minds,
Yeah.
and we are finding ways to really use the skills that we have to hone in on new innovations that will succeed or be sustainable beyond this period. And so I'm really excited to see what people will bring. Um, in regards to telewedding, we're definitely going to be releasing more information about that in the coming week. Um, and we're excited to definitely introduce that to brides and give them an alternative that they weren't expecting that they
Right,
could
right.
have.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you for thinking of something like that to save the
I-
brides.
yes, to save the brides. I know what it means to be a bride. You do not need that stress, girl. No. But to close out ways in which we want to involve our brands, last but not least, since this is one of the most critical components for our consumers and our audience, is just to be personable in our engagement.
Yeah.
Now's the time to be fun, to bring joy, to bring excitement, to bring inspiration and hope. Hope that, we're going to get beyond this point. And when we do, good times are coming. They are definitely coming. And we want to build interconnectedness through this experience that we're all experiencing together, whether you're in the event industry, whether you're not, we are all going through this together. And beyond this, I feel like a lot of us will be more humbled and feel more connected to each other because of these moments that we're dealing with right now. So in that, we definitely want to continue to push out positive messaging, maybe even drive giveaways. People want to engage with, like, okay, well, I'm stuck in the house. Can something come to me? Yeah, definitely. We have giveaways. We will bring some excitement to you. And remind followers again to stay tuned for great things, because I have no doubt when all of this is over, we can all look forward to something fantastic.
Yeah. So good. Hey, for those of you that are just joining us, we have been talking about the best practices for rescheduling and restructuring your event. And tonight's episode was focused around marketing and communication, and continued communication with people that you might have a relationship with. Our guest today has been Vanessa Oliver of Infinitely Elevated Events. Vanessa, how can we stay in contact with you? How can we look you up? What are your handles? All that good stuff.
So we are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find us at Infinitely Elevated. I will spell it out for you since everybody seems to get confused. That's INFIN, the number 8LY, Elevated. So again, yes, you can find us on Instagram. We also have our website, which you will find attached on to pretty much any of those social media platforms. And definitely reach out, whether it's about events or anything. We love hearing from people, so just give us a ring, and I hope you all are staying safe.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Miss Oliver. Thank you for
Thank you,
taking time
Sonia.
out for this episode. And thank you, all of you who have been listening and have been following over the past couple of days as we released these episodes. It's been so awesome to be able to give you just encouragement and empowerment that during a time of rest, which I think we all have been experiencing, you can still be thinking about your business plan.